"You were my biggest mistake in my youth," she said at dinner. I replied, "Then I'll fix that now," and walked out. She thought I'd come crawling back. Instead, within 72 hours, I discovered things that made her affair look like the least of her crimes. My 8-year-old son knew more than I did. My own mother had betrayed me and the man she was sleeping with. Let's just say the FBI got involved. My name is Rayma Maddox. I'm 44 years old and I've spent the last 16 years building Maddox's commercial refrigeration from a 2-man operation into a $3.1 million business. We service every major restaurant, grocery chain, and food distributor within 200 m of Charlotte, North Carolina. I did that, not we. Me. Bethany is 32. We've been married 12 years. Got 2 kids. Owen's 8, Chloe's 6. I met her when she was working reception at one of my clients' offices. She was beautiful, funny, and I thought she saw something in me worth building a life around. Turns out I was half right. She saw something worth taking. The night everything shattered started ordinary enough. I came home around 7, tired from a job site where we'd installed a new walk-in freezer system. Bethany had made pot roast. The kids were at the table. And for a moment it felt like we were still a family. "How was work, Dad?" Owen asked, pushing peas around his plate. "Long, buddy. But good. We finished the Henderson account today." I looked at Bethany, expecting maybe a smile, some acknowledgement. She was scrolling through her phone, barely present. Halfway through dinner, she finally looked up. Her eyes were cold, distant, like she was looking through me instead of at me. "You know what I was thinking about today?" Bethany said, setting down her wine glass with deliberate precision. "What's that?" I asked, cutting into my roast. She tilted her head. And there was something cruel in her smile. "How you were my biggest mistake in my youth. I was 20 when we met. Raymond, 20. I could have done so much more." The table went silent. Owen's fork stopped midair. Chloe looked confused. Too young to fully understand, but old enough to sense something was wrong. I set down my knife and fork slowly, deliberately. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't show anger. I just looked at her with the kind of clarity that only comes when everything you thought you knew dissolves in an instant. "Then I'll fix that now," I said, my voice steady and cold. I stood up, kissed both my kids on the head, grabbed my keys, and walked out the front door. No yelling, no dramatics, just the quiet certainty that I was done being her mistake. What I didn't know then was that in 72 hours, she would understand exactly what she'd lost. And by then it would be far too late. I drove to a hotel on the outskirts of Charlotte, checked in under my own name, and sat in that sterile room staring at my phone. Part of me expected it to light up with calls, texts, apologies, something, anything that showed she gave a damn. Nothing. By midnight, I finally broke and sent her a message. "Do you want me to come back?" Her reply came 3 minutes later. "Do whatever you want, Raymond." Not "yes, please come home." Not "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." Just 7 words that confirmed what I'd been too afraid to admit for months. She didn't care if I stayed or left. I was already gone to her. I just hadn't figured it out yet. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, I started thinking clearly for the first time in years. Bethany had been distant for months. Late nights at yoga class, girls' weekends that came out of nowhere. Her phone suddenly had a passcode when it never had one before. I'd ignored every red flag because I was too busy working, too busy providing, too busy being the man I thought she wanted. But then I remembered something about 6 months ago. I'd set up a shared location app for both of us after she lost her phone at a coffee shop. She'd agreed and then we both forgot about it. I pulled up the app. Her Blue was moving at 217 in the morning heading north away from our house. I watched it for 20 minutes. It stopped at an address I didn't recognize. A townhouse development in a newer part of the city. She stayed there, didn't move. I sat up, grabbed my keys, and drove. I wasn't thinking about consequences or confrontations. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. The townhouse was in a quiet neighborhood. Clean sidewalks, 2-car garages. I parked down the street, engine off, and waited. Her car was in the driveway. A black SUV I didn't recognize sat next to it. At 3:40, the front door opened. A man stepped out, tall, fit, mid-30s maybe. He was on his phone, wearing athletic gear, looking completely comfortable, like this was routine. Then I saw her. Bethany walked to the doorway, said something to him, laughed. It wasn't the polite laugh you give strangers. It was the laugh of someone who felt at home. I took pictures, dozens of them, time-stamped, geotagged everything. Then I backed out slowly, headlights off, and drove back to the hotel. By sunrise, I wasn't angry anymore. I was strategic. I opened my laptop and started making a list. Bank accounts, business assets, insurance policies, property deeds, retirement funds, every single thing we owned together or separately. Then I Googled divorce attorneys in Charlotte, and found one with a reputation for being thorough and discreet. Her name was Diane Frost, former prosecutor, now specialized in high-asset divorces. I sent her an email at 6:30 in the morning with a simple message. My wife thinks I'm too soft to leave. I'd like to prove her wrong. She replied by 8. Let's talk. My office. 10 a.m. By the time Bethany woke up that morning, probably confused about where I was already sitting across from Diane Frost, handing over a flash drive with 43 photos, GPS logs, and a timeline I'd written in the hotel room. Diane looked through everything without expression. When she finished, she looked up and said, "You're ready." I nodded. More than ready. Good. Here's what we do. And for the first time in 12 years, I felt like I was back in control of my own life. Diane Frost didn't waste time. Within 2 hours of our first meeting, she had me signing retainers, filling out financial disclosure forms, and walking through a strategy that felt more like a military operation than a divorce. First thing. Music, Diane said, tapping her pen on a legal pad. We freeze joint accounts. You transfer your half into a new personal account today. Legal, clean, and to protect her assets. She'll notice, I said. Good. Let her notice. By the time she figures out what's happening, we'll already be 3 steps ahead. I spent the rest of that day at the bank. Moved half of our joint savings into a new account under my name only. $73,000. Money I'd earned, saved, and built while she was apparently building something else entirely. But something was nagging at me. The townhouse, the man? Who was he? That evening, I went back, parked in the same spot, waited. This time, I didn't have to wait long. At 6:15, Bethy's car pulled into the driveway. She got out, walked to the front door like she owned the place, and let herself in with a key. A key? She had a key to another man's house. I sat there for 2 hours, watching shadows move behind the curtains. At 8:30, my phone buzzed. It was Aaron Mitchell, my best friend since high school. We've been business partners for 3 years before he sold his share and moved into commercial real estate. Ray, you good? Bethany just called me asking if I knew where you were. What did you tell her? I asked. Told her I hadn't heard from you. She sounded worried. Well, kind of worried. Thanks, man. I'm fine. Just dealing with some stuff. Anything I can help with? Not yet. I'll call you soon. I hung up and kept watching. At 9:40, the front door opened. The man from before stepped out, and this time I got a better look. Mid-30s, clean-cut, athletic build. He walked Bethany to her car, kissed her on the cheek, and waved as she drove off. I followed her, kept 3 cars back, headlights blending with traffic. She didn't go home. She stopped at a CVS, went inside, came out with a bag, then she drove to our house, pulled into the garage, and went inside like it was just another Wednesday night. I didn't go home. I went back to the hotel and started searching. The townhouse address led me to property records owned by Trevor Hammond. I ran his name through LinkedIn. Sales director at a pharmaceutical company. 36 years old, Duke graduate, lived in Charlotte for 4 years. Then I found his Facebook, public profile, lots of photos, gym selfies, vacation shots, and buried in his tag photos from 3 months ago. A group dinner at a restaurant downtown. 10 people around a table, and they're sitting 2 seats away from Trevor Hammond. Smiling like she belonged there was Bethany. I screenshot everything, sent it to Diane with a message. Found him. Trevor Hammond Pharmaceutical Sales. They've known each other at least 3 months. Diane replied within minutes. Good work. Keep digging. The more we know, the stronger our position. I leaned back against the headboard and stared at the ceiling. 72 hours. That's what I'd said. And we were barely at 48. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my mother. Her name is Patricia Maddox, 71 years old, sharp as ever, lives 20 minutes outside Charlotte in the same house where I grew up. She adored Bethany from day one. Always said I'd above my station. That Bethany was the best thing that ever happened to me. Raymond, sweetheart, she answered on the second ring. Where have you been? Bethany called me yesterday, said you walked out during dinner. What's going on? Mom, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me. There was a pause. Too long, of course. Honey, what is it? Did you know Bethany was cheating on me? Silence. The kind that answers questions before words ever do. Raymond, did you know? I repeated, my voice steady but hard. She sighed. It's not that simple. My chest tightened. How long? Maybe a year and a half. She came to me upset, said she was feeling lost. I thought it was a phase. I told her to work through it. That marriage has ups and downs. And when she didn't work through it, when she started seeing someone else, you knew about that too. Another pause. She needed someone to talk to. Raymond, you were always working. She felt lonely, so you helped her. It wasn't a question. I gave her a safe space to figure things out. I thought she'd come back to you. I thought you let them meet at your house, I said. The piece is falling into place, didn't you, Raymond? It's not what you think. Answer the question, Mom. Her voice faltered twice, maybe 3 times. She said she needed somewhere private to talk things through with him. I didn't think. I hung up, didn't say goodbye, didn't yell, just ended the call and sat there in the hotel room staring at my phone. My own mother, the woman who raised me, who taught me about loyalty and integrity, had been covering for my wife's affair. She provided alibis, a meeting place, probably even advice on how to keep it hidden. I called Diane. We need to add something to the case. I said when she picked up, my mother knew. She helped facilitate the affair. Are you sure? She just admitted it to me on the phone. Diane was quiet for a moment. That's useful. Shows a pattern of deception, conspiracy even. It strengthens our narrative that this wasn't a one-time mistake. It was calculated. I don't want anything from her, I said. I just want on record. Understood. I'll document it. After I hung up, I sat in silence. Bethany had taken everything. My trust, my marriage, my sense of security, and now she'd taken my mother too. But she'd miscalculated one thing. She thought I was soft. Thought I'd crumble, beg, take her back like nothing happened. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The 72 hours were almost up. And when they were, she'd finally understand what she destroyed. The 72 hours were up. It was time to go home. I pulled into the driveway Thursday evening, 3 days after I walked out. Bethy's car was there. Lights were on inside. The kids' bikes were scattered on the lawn like always. Everything looked normal. But normal was just a lie we'd been living for too long. I walked into the front door. Bethany was in the kitchen, phone to her ear. She looked up when she heard me. Her expression a mix of relief and irritation. I'll call you back, she said into the phone, then hung up. Where have you been, Raymond? Thinking, I said calmly, about what you said at dinner. I didn't mean it like that. You took it the wrong way. I set my keys on the counter. How should I have taken it? You said I was your biggest mistake. That seemed pretty clear. She sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. I was frustrated. You're never here. You're always working. I just wanted you to understand how I feel. I understand perfectly now, I said. Where are Owen and Chloe? Upstairs. Homework. She crossed her arms. Are you going to tell me where you've been? I've been getting things in order, I said, making sure I fixed that mistake you mentioned. Something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty maybe, but she didn't push it. Over the next 2 days I played the part. Came home for dinner, helped the kids with homework, asked Bethany about her day. She seemed relieved, maybe even a little smug, like she'd won some kind of game. Like I crawled back because I couldn't survive without her. But on Saturday morning, everything changed. I was sitting at the kitchen table with Owen when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Maddox, this is Agent Carol Bennett with the U.S. Marshal Service. We need to speak with you urgently regarding Trevor Hammond. Please call this number immediately. I stepped outside, called the number. Agent Bennett, answer on the first ring. Mr. Maddox, thank you for calling. I need to ask you some questions about your wife, Bethany Maddox, and her relationship with Trevor Hammond. My stomach dropped. What's this about? Trevor Hammond is a witness in a federal case against a pharmaceutical distribution network with ties to organized crime. He's currently in the Witness Protection Program. We've been monitoring his communications and your wife's name has appeared multiple times. We need to know the nature of their relationship. They're having an affair, I said flatly. I have photos, timestamps, everything. There was a pause. Mr. Maddox, if your wife knows about Mr. Hammond's real identity, or his involvement in this case, she could be compromising his safety. We need to interview her immediately. When? Today? And we need to speak with you as well. Can you come to our office in 2 hours? I'll be there. I hung up and stood there for a moment processing. Bethany wasn't just cheating with some random guy. She was involved with a federal witness, someone hiding from criminals who'd kill him if they found him. And she had no idea what kind of danger she'd put herself and our kids. And I walked back inside. Bethany was loading the dishwasher. Who was that? She asked. Work. I lied. I need to run out for a bit. Can you watch the kids? Sure. When will you be back? Not sure. Might take a while. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a federal building downtown across from Agent Bennett and her partner, Agent Luis Ramirez. I showed them everything, the photos, the GPS logs, the timeline. How long has this been going on? Agent Bennett asked. At least 3 months that I know of. Maybe longer. Agent Ramirez leaned forward. Has your wife mentioned anything unusual? Any strangers asking about Trevor? Anyone following her? Not that I know of, but we haven't exactly been communicating much. We need to bring her in. Agent Bennett said if she's told anyone about Trevor, or if she's been followed, the people we're protecting him from might already know where he is. What happens to her? I asked. That depends. If she cooperated unknowingly, probably nothing. If she knew what she was doing, that's a different story. They let me leave but told me not to say anything to Bethany. They'd come to the house Monday morning. When I got home, Bethany was watching TV. The kids were playing in the backyard. Everything okay? She asked. Fine, I said. Just some business stuff. She nodded, already distracted by her phone. I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and called Diane Frost. You're not going to believe this, I said and told her everything. When I finished, Diane was quiet for a long moment. Raymond, this changes everything. If federal agents are involved, your divorce just became the least of her problems. What do I do? You document everything. You cooperate with the marshals. And you make damn sure those kids are protected. If Trevor Hammond's enemies find out where he is, your family could be in danger. I sat down on the bed, ran my hands through my hair. This is insane. It's about to get worse, Diane said. Because when those agents show up Monday, Bethy's going to realize you know everything, and she's going to have a lot more to worry about than just losing you. Sunday was quiet. Too quiet. Bethany spent most of the day on her phone, texting, smiling at the screen. I wondered if she was talking to Trevor, completely unaware that federal agents were about to tear her world apart. I spent the day with Owen and Chloe. Took them to the park, got ice cream, played catch in the backyard. I wanted them to have one normal day before everything exploded. That night, after the kids were asleep, I went into my office and started digging through her files. Tax returns, insurance policies, mortgage documents. I want to make sure everything was in order before Monday. That's when I found it. Buried in a folder marked school records was a document I'd never seen before. A consent form for adoption proceedings for both Owen and Chloe. The form had my signature at the bottom, except I never signed it. I pulled it out, studied it under the desk lamp. The signature was close, too close, but it wasn't mine. The capital I was wrong. The loop in the Y was different. Someone had forged my signature. I kept digging. Found another document. A petition to the family court requesting modification of parental rights. Dated 2 months ago. Filed by Bethy's attorney, someone I'd never heard of. She was trying to set up legal grounds to have Trevor Hammond adopt my kids. My hand was shaking. I took photos of everything. Sent them to Diane Frost with a message. She forged my signature. She's trying to get Trevor to adopt Owen and Chloe. Diane called me 30 seconds later. Raymond, where did you find this? In our home office, hidden in a school folder. This is forgery. This is fraud. This is a felony. Do not touch those documents. I'm coming to get them first thing tomorrow morning and we're filing a police report. What about the marshals? Tell them everything. If Bethy's committing fraud to facilitate a relationship with a federal witness, that's their problem, too. I hung up and sat there staring at the documents. My wife had not only betrayed me, she tried to erase me, replace me with her lover, take my kids, and hand them over to a man they barely knew. And she thought I'd never find out. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Bethany appeared in the doorway wearing a robe, holding a glass of wine. What are you doing up so late? She asked. I looked at her. This woman I'd spent 12 years with and didn't recognize her at all. Just catching up on paperwork, I said evenly. You've been in here a lot lately. Business stuff. You know how it is. She sipped her wine, studied me like she was trying to read something in my face. You've been acting strange since you came back. Have I? Yeah. Distant, like you're somewhere else. I stood up, closed the folder casually. I'm tired, Bethany. Just trying to keep everything together. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Well, don't work too hard. You've got a family to take care of. I know, I said. That's exactly what I'm doing. She turned and walked back upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close. Then I opened the folder again and took more photos. Every page, every forged signature, every fraudulent document. Tomorrow, the federal agents would arrive. Diane would file a police report and Bethany would finally understand that the quiet, hard-working man she'd taken for granted wasn't weak. He was strategic, and he'd been 10 steps ahead of her the entire time. Tuesday morning, I was sitting in Diane Frost's office when my phone rang. It was Owen's school. Mr. Maddox, this is Principal Stevens. I need you to come to the school immediately. There's been an incident involving Owen. My blood ran cold. Is he hurt? No, he's fine physically, but he's very upset. We need to talk. I was there in 15 minutes. Principal Stevens led me to her office where Owen sat in a chair, his eyes red from crying. I knelt down in front of him. Owen, buddy, what happened? He looked up at me and his voice broke. Dad, I heard something I wasn't supposed to hear. Principal Stevens handed me a small voice recorder. He brought this to school. Said he needed to show someone. I pressed play. The audio was muffled at first, then cleared. Bethy's voice. Unmistakable. Trevor, I can't do this anymore. Raymond's getting suspicious. A man's voice. Trevor Hammond. Then leave him. You said you were going to file papers months ago. It's not that simple. The business is worth millions. If I file now, I'll get half. But his lawyer will drag it out. I need more time to move money around first. How much longer? 6 months, maybe less. I've already transferred $40,000 into the offshore account. Once I hit 100, I'll file and be done with him. The recording stopped. I looked at Owen. Where did you get this? Mom left her phone in the living room last week. Owen said, his voice small. It was on speaker. I didn't mean to listen, but I heard her talking about leaving you. I recorded it because I thought maybe you should know. I'm sorry, Dad. I pulled him into a hug. You didn't do anything wrong, son. You did the right thing. Principal Stevens cleared her throat. Mr. Maddox, I'm obligated to report if a child is being exposed to adult situations that could be harmful. Owen's been carrying this for a week. He's been having nightmares, anxiety attacks in class. Our counselor thinks he needs professional support. He'll get it, I said. I'm already working on getting him and his sister out of that situation. I took the recorder, thanked the principal, and called Diane immediately. We just hit the jackpot, I said, and played her the recording. When it finished, Diane was silent for a moment. Raymond, this is confession to financial fraud, intent to hide marital assets, and premeditated theft. With this recording, we can freeze everything. She won't see a dime. Do it. And I want full custody. Owen recorded this because he knew something was wrong. He's been protecting himself and Chloe. That's not a burden an 8-year-old should carry. I'll file an emergency motion today. We'll have a hearing by Friday. That evening, I picked up Chloe from school and took both kids to my brother's house. I wasn't bringing them back to that house until Bethany was gone. I texted her. Kids are with me. Don't contact them. Talk to your lawyer. She called 30 seconds later. I didn't answer. She called again and again 17 times in an hour. Finally, she texted. Where are my kids? I replied with her father where they should have been all along. An hour later, she showed up at my brother's house. I met her at the door. Didn't let her inside. You can't take my children, she said, her voice shaking with anger. I can and I did. You want to see them? Talk to your lawyer. File a motion, but you're not getting near them until a judge says otherwise. Raymond, please. You were going to steal from me, Bethany. You're going to take my kids, give them to Trevor, and disappear with $100,000 of my money. Owen heard you. He recorded you. He's been having nightmares because of what you put him through. Her face went white. He what? Your 8-year-old son has been carrying your secrets because he knew you were destroying this family. You did that, not me. She tried to push past me. I didn't move. Leave now or I'm calling the police. She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she turned and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, then went back inside. Owen was sitting on the couch. Chloe next to him. Is Mom mad at me? Owen asked quietly. I sat down next to him, put my arm around his shoulders. No, buddy. She's mad at herself, and she should be. Friday came fast. The emergency custody hearing was set for 2 p.m. Diane had prepared everything. Owen's recording, the forged adoption documents, the federal investigation into Trevor Hammond, all of it. But Bethany wasn't going down without a fight. Her lawyer, a sharp woman named Michelle York, filed a counter motion that morning. In it, Bethany claimed I was suffering from a mental breakdown, that I'd become paranoid and delusional, and that I was unfit to care for the children. Attached to the motion was a psychological evaluation from a Dr. Philip Grantham, a licensed psychiatrist in Charlotte. The evaluation claimed I exhibited signs of narcissistic personality disorder, paranoid delusions, and potential emotional instability. I'd never met Dr. Philip Grantham in my life. I called Diane immediately. She faked a psych eval. I said, I've never seen this doctor. Never been to his office. This is completely fabricated for me. Everything. I'll have our investigator look into it. Within 3 hours, our investigator, a former police detective named Frank Reynolds, called back. Mr. Maddox, I found something interesting. Dr. Philip Grantham is a real psychiatrist, but he also happens to be Trevor Hammond's former college roommate. They went to Duke together, still listed as friends on social media. So, Bethany had Trevor's friend write a fake evaluation to make me look unstable. That's what it looks like. I pulled phone records. Bethany called Dr. Grantham's office 6 times in the last 2 weeks. And get this, Dr. Grantham could lose his license for this. Falsifying a psychiatric evaluation is a felony. I've already contacted the North Carolina Medical Board. At the hearing, Diane brought all of it. She presented Owen's recording, the forged adoption papers, and then dropped the bombshell about Dr. Grantham. Your Honor, Diane said, the psychological evaluation submitted by Mrs. Maddox is fraudulent. My client has never met Dr. Grantham. We have evidence that Dr. Grantham is a personal friend of Mrs. Maddox's paramour, Trevor Hammond, and that this evaluation was fabricated to discredit Mr. Maddox in these proceedings. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Hall, looked at Michelle York. Is this true? Michelle looked at Bethany, who'd gone pale. Your Honor, I was not aware. I don't care what you were aware of, Counselor. This is an officer of the court submitting fraudulent documents. Mr. Maddox, do you have proof? Diane handed the judge phone records, social media screenshots, and a statement from the medical board confirming they were opening an investigation into Dr. Grantham. Judge Hall read through everything, then looked at Bethany with open disgust. Mrs. Maddox, you have wasted this court's time with falsified documents. You've committed fraud and you've endangered your children by involving them in an affair with a federal witness. I'm granting Mr. Maddox temporary full custody. You will have supervised visitation only, pending a full custody evaluation by a court-appointed psychologist, a real one this time. Bethany started crying. Your Honor, please. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges related to the forged adoption documents and the falsified psychological evaluation. You're dismissed. We walked out of that courtroom and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Diane turned to me. She just buried herself. Good, I said. Let her stay buried. 3 weeks after the custody hearing, Bethany requested a meeting. Her lawyer called Diane and said she wanted to talk settlement. No theatrics. No fighting, just talk. We met at Diane's office on a Thursday afternoon. Bethany looked different, thinner, tired, like the weight of everything had finally broken through that perfect exterior she always maintained. Raymond, she started, but I held up my hand. Don't. I'm here to listen to your offer, not to rehash anything. Michelle York slid a folder across the table. Mrs. Maddox is willing to accept a settlement. She'll relinquish all claims to Maddox's commercial refrigeration, accept a one-time payment of $200,000, and agree to joint legal custody with your primary physical custody. Diane looked at me. I shook my head. No. Bethy's eyes widened. Raymond, please. You tried to steal from me, Bethany. You forged documents to have another man adopt my kids. You put them in danger by involving yourself with a federal witness. You created fake psychological evaluations. You don't get $200,000 for that. Then what do you want? Michelle asked. She gets nothing from the business. She gets $50,000, half of what she stole from our joint accounts. She gets supervised visitation until Owen and Chloe are comfortable seeing her alone. And she pays back every dollar she transferred to that offshore account. That's $40,000. Michelle said she doesn't have it. Then she sells her car, sells her jewelry, gets a job. I don't care how she does it, but she pays it back. Bethany started crying. I made mistakes, Raymond. I know I did, but you can't just destroy me. I looked at her. This woman who'd shared my life for 12 years and felt absolutely nothing. I'm not destroying you, Bethany. I'm just not saving you anymore. There's a difference. We walked out 20 minutes later with her signature on the settlement. Diane turned to me as we reached the parking lot. You could have taken her for more. I don't want more. I want my kids safe and my business protected. Everything else is just noise. That evening, I sat down with Owen and Chloe. Owen had been seeing a therapist twice a week, working through everything he'd witnessed. Chloe was too young to fully understand, but she knew things were different now. Dad, Owen said, is Mom going to be okay? Eventually, she has to fix some things first. But that's not your responsibility, buddy. You just focus on being a kid. I miss her sometimes, he admitted quietly. That's okay. She's still your mom. You're allowed to miss her, but you're also allowed to be mad at her. Both feelings can be true at the same time. He nodded. Seemed to understand. 2 days later, I got a call from Agent Bennett at the U.S. Marshal Service. Mr. Maddox, I wanted to update you. Trevor Hammond has been relocated. Your wife's involvement didn't compromise his security, but we've moved him as a precaution. You and your children are no longer considered at risk. Thank you. And Mr. Maddox, for what it's worth, you handled this exactly right. A lot of people would have confronted him, made it messy. You stayed smart, kept your kids safe. That takes strength. After she hung up, I sat in my office and looked at the photos on my desk. Owen and Chloe at the beach last summer. My parents' anniversary party. The grand opening of my business 15 years ago. Bethany wasn't in any of them. I'd already started removing her from the frames, replacing those pictures with new ones. Owen's soccer team, Chloe's dance recital. Moments that mattered. She'd wanted to erase me. Instead, I'd simply moved forward without her. And I never felt more free. 8 months later, life looked completely different. Owen and Chloe were thriving. Owen's nightmares had stopped. His therapist said he was processing everything in healthy ways. Learning that he wasn't responsible for adult problems. Chloe had adjusted faster than I expected. Kids are resilient that way. Bethany saw them every other weekend, supervised visits at a family center. She'd started therapy herself, got a job at a marketing firm, and was slowly trying to rebuild some kind of relationship with the kids. I didn't interfere. If she wanted to do the work, that was on her. The business was doing better than ever. We'd landed 3 major contracts in the last quarter, and I promoted 2 of my senior technicians to management positions. Turned out I worked better when I wasn't carrying the weight of a failing marriage. One Saturday afternoon, I took the kids to a fall festival at their school. Owen ran off to play games with his friends. Chloe dragged me to the face painting booth. While we were waiting in line, a woman in front of us turned around. Raymond Maddox. I looked at her, and it took me a second to place her. Jennifer Calloway. We'd gone to high school together. Hadn't seen her in probably 20 years. Jenny. Wow. Hot. She smiled. I heard you were back in Charlotte. Well, I heard you never left, actually. Small town gossip. Yeah, I'm still here. These are my kids, Owen and Chloe. They're beautiful. I've got 2 of my own around here. Somewhere. She paused. I also heard about your divorce. I'm sorry. Don't be. Best thing that could have happened. We talked for a few minutes. Turned out she'd moved back to Charlotte 2 years ago after her own divorce. Worked as a nurse at the hospital. She seemed genuine, warm, the kind of person who didn't play games. Before she left, she handed me a card. If you ever want to grab coffee and complain about co-parenting, give me a call. I took the card and smiled. I might do that. That evening after the kids were asleep, I sat on the back porch with a beer and looked at that card. Jenny Calloway. I wasn't ready for anything serious. Wasn't sure I'd ever be ready again. But maybe coffee wouldn't hurt. Maybe just talking to someone who understood what it was like to rebuild after everything fell apart. I thought about Bethany. Wondered if she ever regretted what she'd said that night at dinner. You were my biggest mistake in my youth. Those words had destroyed everything, but they'd also freed me. Because the truth was, she was right. Marrying her had been a mistake. But not for the reason she thought. The mistake wasn't that I wasn't good enough for her. The mistake was thinking she was good enough for me. I'd fixed that mistake, built something real with my kids, protected my business, found my strength, and now, for the first time in years, I was ready to see what came next. Not for her, for me.